not late yet? All right, we'll get started. It's great to be speaking in a movie theater. I can kind of cross this off my bucket list now. Competing with Gone Girl next door. It's very exciting. So my name is Warwick Webb. I'm an information security director for Salesforce. And I also have with me Paul McAndrew, who's one of the security incident handlers on my team. And he's going to be joining us a little bit later for a live demo. So what we wanted to talk to you about today was how we use the Salesforce platform to track and respond to security threats around the clock in real time. And I'm hoping that even though this talk is specifically about security operations, that you can apply this to essentially any operations team to help up your game by using the Salesforce platform. It's probably the first time you've seen this since you got to Dreamforce. Safe harbor statement, we're a publicly traded company. Please make all your buying decisions based on available products and services. So I've been with Salesforce for a little over 3 years, and I've had the opportunity to build and evolve our incident response capabilities. And we're really the last line of defense protecting our company data and our customers' data. So I mentioned incident response. So what is security incident response and why do we need it? Well, we define it as a set of actions taken by an organization to contain and eradicate a threat in their environment. But why does Salesforce need security incident response, right? Trust is our #1 value. We have some of the strongest security controls. We have the best information security team in the world. Why would we need to worry about incident response? Well, first of all, security controls fail, right? You might think that antivirus is running on a given host, and it's not. Or a firewall rule change might introduce an unforeseen gap in your network. People make mistakes. Doesn't matter how many times you train your employees not to click on links or not to allow somebody to tailgate after them into headquarters, it's going to happen. Advanced persistent attackers do not give up easily. So we're not talking about sort of the casual script kiddies just scanning the internet looking for vulnerabilities. If there's a well-funded adversary with enough time on their hands determined to compromise an organization, they will be able to do it. So at the end of the day, it's not really whether you're impacted, but how you respond to security incidents in your environment. What I'm hoping to show you today is that by reacting quickly, decisively, you can stop the attack very early in the kill chain. I mentioned the kill chain. That is a model that was first defined by Lockheed Martin to describe the common phases in an information security attack. And it turns out there's a huge difference in the impact to your organization depending on whether you were to stop an attack, say here in the delivery phase. An example of this would be there's a highly targeted phishing email that's sent to your chief financial officer. If you notice the attack there's a huge difference in impact versus if you notice it here when the attacker has compromised your network and is exfiltrating data from your environment. And actually far more common is that organizations find out well after the fact that they've been compromised. In fact, according to Verizon, less than 1/3 of security incidents are actually discovered by the organization that was breached. It's usually another party telling them. So with that in mind, I mean, what would you think the average time to detect and respond to an incident would be? You know, one would hope maybe a few hours, maybe a couple of days. But according to security firm Mandiant, the average is actually 229 days, right? So over half a year on average to discover and respond to a security incident. So at Salesforce, we wanted to do a lot better than that. So we built this team, Salesforce CSIRT. We are a round-the-clock detection and rapid response team, and we respond to security incidents. We define a security incident as a confirmed or reasonably suspected breach of company or customer data. Some examples of this include phishing of our employees or our customers, malware that compromises an endpoint in our environment, abuse of the Salesforce platform, and obviously unauthorized data access. Those are just a few examples. So we've built a global follow-the-sun model to provide 24/7 by 365 coverage. So at any time of the day and night, we have a incident handler who's trained in security monitoring, network and host forensics, and incident response online. So that's who we are. I wanted to talk a little bit about what the hardest part of security incident response is. Right? It's obviously a complex problem. Is it system forensic investigations, right? Taking a full disk image of a system and carving out deleted files from that image, looking for signs of suspicious activity. Or maybe it's effective network security monitoring, right? Analyzing network packets that are captured on the wire and looking for that needle in the haystack. Or advanced malware analysis, reverse engineering malware, trying to figure out what it's doing on your system. Now, these are very hard technical problems, and we've hired some of the best security practitioners in the world to take these on. But it turns out one of the hardest parts of security incident response is rapid and effective collaboration and communication. So everybody's seen this meme, it's a little bit overused, herding cats, but it really does apply to security incident response. Chaos and confusion are the enemy of security incident response. So that means you have to do a few things very, very well. You have to respond quickly. I remember very early in my career, somebody told me, slow down, you can't outrun a network packet, which is a true statement. But as we talked about earlier, by responding quickly and containing a threat early, you can significantly reduce the impact on your environment. Communicating effectively. Getting the right information to the right people at the right time. This one is critical. And it sounds easy, but the reality is in a lot of organizations, when an incident occurs, you end up with multiple email threads, multiple phone bridges, different bits of information getting out to different people, and the end result is FUD, right? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And you have to really solve that by having a very, very organized communication process. And finally, collaborating organization-wide. So mustering the resources you need to respond effectively to a security incident. Much as the security team think that we're superheroes, we can't contain a threat by ourselves. We need help from other technical teams, from legal, from various teams within the organization. So we have to be able to pull those people in quickly and effectively. So it should be obvious from the description of this presentation, but we built our incident response platform on Salesforce. So why did we do that? A couple of reasons. First of all, when I talked to my peers about what they were using, it turned out that current state-of-the-art looked something like this. And they were either using SharePoint or email or literally pen and paper. Right? So the tool just didn't exist for this job. But that still doesn't answer why we chose Salesforce. Well, obviously, we're Salesforce, so we want to eat our own cooking. But more importantly, Salesforce was built to solve this problem. Right? When everything I've talked about here around collaboration and communication and speed is what Salesforce is built to do. Tracking, open and extensible, mobile, you name it. So our goal was to build a single pane of glass that our security operations team could use to respond effectively. And again, I'm hoping that you'll see that for any operations team, you could build a similar single pane of glass on the Salesforce platform. So that's an overview. Let's jump in now and talk about the platform itself and what we've built. So to set the stage, I'd like to talk about the day in the life of the incident response team at Salesforce. So the team, as I mentioned, is online 24/7. And we have two core responsibilities that are really two sides of the same coin. Incident detection and incident response. So on the incident detection side, we have two main sources of information. We have security alerts. So these are alarms that are coming in from our security monitoring tools that we have deployed throughout our organization. And they're reporting possible suspicious activity. So those go straight into the incident response platform. Just as importantly, we have reports from employees and customers about possible suspicious activity that are fed into the same platform for review by the incident handling team. So as the team is reviewing this inbound intelligence, if they determine that a security incident has likely occurred, they will kick off the incident response process right there on the same platform and begin containing and eradicating the threat. So I'd like to dive into each of these three areas so you can see how we do this on the Salesforce platform. First of all, security alerting. So much like any large organization, we have billions of log lines that are generated per day. We feed those into a correlation engine, and those are turned into alerts that populate into the incident response platform. So my team is looking at a queue of alerts that initially come in assigned just to CSIRT. We have very strict SLAs around handling those alerts quickly. So the incident handler will essentially take ownership of alerts right here in this queue and drill down into the alert to see the details. Now, here's an example alert. So a couple things I'll point out. First of all, I apologize that there's a little bit of redacted information here. They're all my closest friends, but some of these data points are not for public consumption. So here's the case detail, and in this case, we're looking at a block of an unauthorized file on an IT server. It's been picked up by Shane Porter. One of the cool things, obviously, that goes with just running something on Salesforce, we can chatter on the alerts. So this is fantastic because when you're dealing with a security alert, being able to collaborate with other incident handlers around the world and share information or tips right on the alert is invaluable. Now, let's say the incident handler is new or he's never seen this alert before. He can actually drill down on what we call the detection logic and find out what this alert means and why it's firing in our environment. So when he drills down, he can see a description of the alert, the pseudo logic, even what phase of the kill chain it's mapped to, and more importantly, documentation on how he should respond to that alert. Of course, because it's Salesforce, you can also chatter on the detection logic, which means that my team has this awesome collaborative experience where they can talk about what's working and what's not about this alert and make tuning changes. And I can tell you, coming from other security operations environments, that analysts don't usually have this kind of context about the alert data that they're dealing with. So that's alerting. I mentioned earlier employee and customer reports. So we encourage all of our employees to report any suspicious activity to security@salesforce.com. And our employees are very paranoid, which is fantastic, right? My team handles upwards of 400 emails a week from employees. And these emails, sort of are from all over the map. Everything from, hey, my mouse cursor is moving by itself. This is kind of weird, right? Which could actually be something. So believe me, I'm glad that they're reporting it. Or is this email really from American Express? And if you have to ask, the answer is probably no. Someone just badge surfed into 3 landmark, right? Okay, that's not good. And this one we actually got a couple of months ago. I lost my sweater apart. And there are things that we can do, but sorry. But every now and then, in all of this, there'll be something interesting, something that requires more investigation. So this was an actual report that we got in from an employee several months ago. He noticed that his browser settings had been changed so that all outbound connections proxied through an external system. Very strange. And he took the time to report it to us. And we started looking at the system and realized we had a confirmed compromise here. Now, fortunately, it turned out it was actually our trust assessments team, which is our what we call our red team. And they were testing our security controls, performing a penetration test on our network. But the reality is that because we would encourage our employees to report anything and everything to us, we found this needle in the haystack that really, really paid off for us. So let's say you're an incident handler and you get this alert or this email. What do you do? Okay. First thing, I don't know if we have any Douglas Adams fans. Oh, yeah, okay. Don't panic. The second step is to initiate the security incident response process, again, right on our platform. So when an incident is initiated on the Salesforce platform, let's first talk about incident collaboration. The incident handler, the person who owns the incident, is really the quarterback for the incident, right? So it could be an incident that involves 10 or 15 or 20 people working on it. But the incident handler is the one who decides what the response tasks are and gets them assigned out quickly. So the first thing an incident handler will do after creating an incident is spin up what we call response tasks. And these are tasks to quickly contain and eradicate the threat. And the incident handler will assign these response tasks to various people either within our team or outside of our team. When somebody's assigned a response task, they receive an email telling them what the response task is and with a link to it. So we're able to sort of scramble the jets very quickly and get people responding in near real time. And as the task owners work on their tasks, they can, of course, chatter on the tasks and keep everybody else following the incident up to date. So another important aspect of incident collaboration is that we've built this 24/7 team, which is fantastic. But we have to be able to continue and maintain our momentum around the clock. Right? What you don't want is when your shift in one location goes offline, then everything just comes to a screeching halt. And so we built into the platform what we call a handoff app, where before a given CSIRT shift leaves for the end of the day, they will identify all the in-flight incident response tasks, alerts, emails, the current status of them, and what the next steps are. And just as importantly, when the new shift arrives, they are required to find owners for each one of these tasks and assign them out so that they continue and we maintain our momentum around the clock. So incident communication, we talked about how important this is. We have two sort of flavors of incident communication on the platform. The first is somewhat tactical. If you're interested in particular types of security incidents, we can essentially subscribe you to those incidents, and you will be automatically followed via chatter to incidents that match that rule. And so if you're interested in, for example, maybe you're somebody in IT and you're interested in IT incidents of severity level 2 or higher, we can set that up, and you will receive emails when an incident is created and on every update. So that's great for very tactical updates to other people within the organization. But we also need to be able to provide high-level summaries, particularly to our executive team, about high-severity incidents. And so from the platform, we are able to send out regular incident updates every X hours, basically, until the incident is resolved. So continuous improvement is something that's built, really sort of baked into our platform and our process. And it should be a function of any mature incident response process, which is we don't just want to keep handling the same things over and over again. If we identify something that doesn't work, we need to capture that. And so we've baked in this concept of corrective actions. And a corrective action is something that can be done to either reduce the likelihood of recurrence or improve our ability to respond in the future. And what we've done a little bit differently is, for a lot of incident response teams, they'll, 1 or 2 weeks after an incident has concluded, they'll all gather in a room and figure out what went right, what went wrong. But by building it right into the platform, we encourage the incident handlers, as they're responding to the incident, to capture things that work, that are not working properly while it's still fresh, right? So in this case, you'll see this incident has 3 corrective actions, right? To improve this handoff process with IT, to fix this logging issue that we've noticed, and to follow up with that user who clicked on that phishing email when they really shouldn't have. And we will not close an incident until all of these corrective actions have been identified and assigned to the correct owners. And finally, situational awareness. For myself and for my leadership team, we have things like SLA monitoring. So as alerts or emails or incident response tasks approach SLA, we're able to be made aware of that. And high-level operational dashboards that show us the status of all in-flight actions and also how the team is doing. So, I don't want to bore you with too many slides. I'm going to bring Paul McAndrew up here, who is, again, one of the security incident handlers on our team, and we're going to walk through a demo of our incident response platform. All right, so hopefully that doesn't look like an eye chart in the back there, I'm not sure. So this is the queue that's being monitored around the clock by incident handlers on my team. And they'll see both employee reports, customer reports, and security alerts in this single view. And in this case, we have an email that's come in from I believe it's an employee named Sarah Smith, and it's been sitting for 45 minutes, so you see the SLA status is yellow, so we better get to this one. So Paul's going to take ownership of this case from this console. And then we'll go in and take a look at what she's reported. So if we scroll down to the description here, she's reported that she's found a strange-looking device plugged into the network jack in an empty cube. Okay, that could be something or it could be nothing. She's fortunately attached a picture to her email, so we'll take a look at it. That's kind of blurry. It's generally the type of picture you would get, and but we can tell by looking at this, this is what's known as a pwn plug, which is used by attackers to essentially gain access to a network just by plugging in the device. So this doesn't look good. But we're not convinced yet. So we talked to Sarah and also talked to people who sit in the cube around Sarah to make sure that this doesn't belong to anybody. And when we find that, no, actually nobody's aware of what this device is, we realize we need to spin up a security incident. So right from the email case here, Paul can create a security incident. Obviously, there's a few required fields here: the subject, the type of incident, severity, and the description. And again, plenty of incident response teams that I've seen, we're talking already about multiple disparate systems that they're dealing with. But this is all within the Salesforce platform. Paul creates the incident here. A couple things you'll notice. First of all, at the very top, you'll see that people have been automatically followed to this incident. And this is based on criteria. So because this is a severity 2 incident, which is a relatively severe incident, we have people from security leadership. Because it's in IT, we have somebody from the IT security team and members of the CSIRT team as well. So they'll receive emails on every update to this incident. Paul's going to take ownership of the incident. And scrolling down, you'll also notice that under related cases, that the email that was actually that was used to report this has been associated with the incident and closed out, so that we have that audit trail all the way back to the initial report, so we can look at what actually led to the creation of this incident. But what's missing right now are response tasks. So the clock's ticking, right? Paul's gotten this report, unknown device on the network. He wants to start responding quickly. So the first thing he's going to do is create a task to isolate the host. Now we could just pull the host off the network. We could just ask Sarah to unplug it. What we want to do is we want to isolate it so that we can connect to it, but it can't connect to anybody else. So just with a publisher action here, Paul can go in and create a task to isolate the host. He's going to assign it to somebody on the team here, and they'll jump into a console and block the host immediately. So in this case, we're assigning it to Adam, who's another handler on the team. We'll give him the MAC address that we've been able to pull off the device so that he can isolate that device. Great. So Adam's now running with that. Second question we want to ask is this device talking to anything on the internet? It's quite possible that if this is a malicious device, that it's phoning home to what's called a command and control server on the internet in order to talk with the attacker. So we're gonna also create a task for another member of the team to go ahead and review all of our network traffic from this host, right, to see if it's talking to anything on the internet. So Paul would create a task here, just a response task. Yep, create a response task here, and ask one of the handlers on our team to, again, to go and look at all the raw network traffic to see if this host has been talking to anything out on the public internet. So we'll assign this to Brianna. And that task is now kicked off for her. Right. So at this point, we have two tasks that are in flight. And if, okay, let's get ready for the questions. I'm going to refresh it there. All right, okay, so there's 2 tasks that have been created here. Now let's say that Brianna comes back to us and says, yes, you know what? I'm seeing traffic to an IP address here from this host. Paul can very quickly block that host, again, simply using a publisher action. So he'll create a task here to block the IP address. This will actually kick off a ticket to our IT team to block this IP address at all of our internet egress points and prevent any more communication with this malicious IP address. Okay, so we now have all these tasks in flight. Paul's going to take a minute to actually send an update to our executive team because this is a relatively high severity incident and we want to let them know. Oh, and there you see there's Brianna giving us her update that this IP was in use. And fortunately, Adam has already blocked or isolated the host on the network. So again, it's all about speed and being able to divide and conquer and quickly assign these tasks out and get them completed in parallel. So at this point, Paul's going to take a moment just to send an update out to our executive team. Does it right from the platform, sends an email. We have a standard incident notification template. And the nice thing about this is that all of the information, almost all the information he needs to send out is pulled directly from the case itself. So there's a few things that he has to populate, and then this will go out to our executive team. And this email thread will be the single source of truth for this incident. So what often happens, again, is you'll have 10 or 15 different email threads going on. Everybody's discussing different things. This will be the only line of communication about this incident. So if others have questions about the incident, they'll respond to it, and we'll send updates periodically until the incident has been resolved. Okay, so send that out. Okay, so at this point, we've isolated the host. We've determined what its C2 server is. We've blocked that at the edge. Now, Paul noticed during this incident that this really should never have happened because we have network access controls that prevent people from just plugging unauthorized devices into the network. So something didn't work here. So Paul's going to create a corrective action just so we can track that fact. So this corrective action will be associated with this incident. And again, we will not be able to close the incident until somebody takes action on this. So it really forces change within the organization as a result of a security incident occurring. And this could be assigned to somebody on my team if it's a CSIRT specific task, or to somebody else within the organization. So that's now tracked as a corrective item, or corrective action. So Paul's now approaching the end of his shift. He's made a lot of progress on this incident. He sent out his update. He's tracking corrective actions, but he wants to hand it off to the next team so that he can go home for the night. So we're going to create a handoff now and hand this off to the next CSIRT team coming online. So in this case, he's handing off from our operations center in Northern Virginia to Sydney. And you'll see that this will populate with all of the open in-flight incident response tasks or emails that are in play here. Except that we are having this issue with a redirect. And this is why you don't do live demos. No, it's not going to cooperate with us. Well, it's a sandbox issue for you. Try one more time. No. Trust me. He's presented with a list of in-flight issues, and he can basically update them, hit submit, and then he has to wait until the next team comes online and actually asks them any questions they have. And if they don't have any more questions, they can accept the handoff. And at that point, Paul can leave. So that's it for our demo. I wanted to mention one other thing here on the back on the slide. Yeah, so one of the things, I talked about current state of the art and where it is today. So what we wanted to do is not only just build this for ourselves, but also share it with our peers in the community. So what we've done is we're actually releasing this as an app on the App Exchange. It's called Salesforce Incident Responder, and it contains all the core functionality that we talked about today. So incident tracking, incident response tasks, corrective actions, and the handoff app. And any team who adopts this can obviously extend it and expand it to be whatever they want it to be. We're looking to release this by the end of this month. And again, if you're a Salesforce customer, worth mentioning to your security team, how are you currently tracking incidents? You know, would you like to use a few Salesforce licenses to track incidents in the cloud? So that's it. Hopefully I've left enough time, yes, for questions. Questions, comments? I've answered every possible question. Thank you. Oh, I guess okay, we got the gentleman right here.
How do you decide which incidents to make public or not?
It's a great question. And a question that every organization obviously has to deal with. So trust is our #1 value, and we are very transparent with our customers about security issues. If a security incident impacts one or more customers, we will disclose that to them. Now, there is always the question of when you would disclose an incident publicly. And you know, fortunately for Salesforce, that's not a bridge we've had to cross. But we have obligations to our customers. If customer data is in any way exposed, we will notify them.
So I work for FireEye, maybe.
Okay.
Obviously, we have a pretty elegant incident response. But I'm curious, looking at this, I see how you deal kind of with internal incidents. But I'm sure you have other systems other than Salesforce, right, that you're working with vendors, you know, maybe a back office or something. How does this incident response process that you have, how do you work with your vendors and collaborate and communicate?
So our goal is a single pane of glass, right? And I think you'll probably agree that it's hard to get 100% there, right? So where we can't track something on the platform, we basically will integrate with other systems. You know, we certainly have other ticketing systems we need to integrate with, other tools that we need to integrate with. You know, fortunately, Salesforce makes that fairly easy to integrate with other systems. So.
I was just getting Holy cow. Don't die on my behalf. Warwick, thanks. I'm curious if you are getting other folks from other areas of the company involved here, in particular when it comes to dealing with notifications coming from external places, you know, different kinds of bugs. Do they get incorporated into this incident response process or not? So how frequently are you involving some sort of outreach back to the community or members of the line of different business units within Salesforce to participate in this process?
Sure. So while my team is the incident response team, we're also kind of the front door for the security team. So we deal with a lot of different issues that are not security incidents. And we've just built the necessary escalation processes within the company to be able to get those to the right people. So for example, if a member of the public reported a vulnerability in Salesforce to security@salesforce.com, we would escalate that to the appropriate teams internally and sort of manage the communication with the reporter. Does that answer your question?
Pretty much. I'm just curious, how about getting legal involved or some sort of communications group or that kind of stuff?
Yeah, no, that's all baked into the process. So when we have an incident, particularly if it's customer impacting, we have processes in place to pull in, and that's what I was talking about earlier. A technical team alone can't solve this problem, right? So we have escalation paths in place with PR, with legal, with customer support, with sales, because a lot of times customers will have questions about a security issue, and they'll usually call their salesperson and say, what's going on with this? So we coordinate all of that internal communication to equip employees to communicate with their customers. Oh, great.
I can share if you like.
Okay.
What kind of, you talked about employees raising issues.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of things do you do to educate them about why that's important and what to look out for?
Sure. Well, I wish I could give you a time machine to go back to 12 o'clock, because Masha Sadova actually gave a great talk here today about, she runs the trust engagement team, and they're focused on training employees and really empowering employees to do the right thing. So I would butcher any attempt to describe what her team does, but I think, and I'm not bragging here, I think Salesforce has really nailed that one. We've gamified the whole experience, made it very fun for employees, and we've just put it front and center. See something, say something. Security at Salesforce, just drill it into people's heads. And we found, for that reason, for example, we do monthly phishing tests, where we'll phish our employees and see which percentage of them reports that to security. We've gotten great numbers off of that, to the point where I'm fairly confident that any targeted phishing campaign would probably be reported to us by employees, even if it only targeted 20 people. There's a good chance that 1 or 2 of them would report that to us. So they're really the most important link in the incident response chain.
I'm right here if you want to talk a little bit more.
Oh, there's Masha,
that.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, Masha, you want to add anything to that? Sorry.
No, that was beautiful. Thanks, Barry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, Joanne. Yeah. Killing you over here.
So, does Salesforce have a perspective on bug bounties? Do you have a bug bounty? Thoughts on it?
We don't currently have a bug bounty. I think it's a great idea. That's my perspective. Looks like we have about 1 minute left. Oh, really?
Yeah, he's like
I'm
right
gonna
down
see
the
him,
corner.
Robert. I can almost see him back there in the lights. No, that's okay. I'm gonna put him on the spot. All right. I guess everybody gets 35 seconds of their day back. Thank you very much.